take 9. Song's called Merrily, Merrily. Anyway, try to tell it's gonna be wrong. Yeah, I hope life's like a fucking dream that doesn't last long. Oh, and everyone knows how you felt. Wonder why they even ask if it's their story to tell. Sometimes when they pause to breathe, you get to add on. Your eyes closed feels like bars on a cage, holding you down, keeping you in place. And God knows tomorrow's just a few hours away, and you weren't even ready for today. Why didn't you ever reach out and ask for help? Why didn't you just do everything that worked for everyone else? So it's incredible indulgence how you always relapse, as if the only door out is the one that leads back. You don't even have the key to that. Your eyes closed feels like bars on a cage, holding you down, keeping you in place. God knows tomorrow's just a few hours away, and you weren't even ready for today. And we're back with the evening news.
Hey guys, what's up?
So after like the big talk thing, I wanted to do like a performance segment, and artists can like plug their endeavors, but I'm not doing anything that I particularly want to plug. So if you want to talk to me about my fantastic poetry, this is your opportunity.
No, this
just grill me
is a
about
really
that beautiful song I played.
Yeah,
It was a really good song.
Thanks.
So that's a holdout song, not a guilt song.
I don't know. It just didn't feel like a guilt song, and I always have to play acoustic guitar for holdouts because that's kind of our thing. And I thought, what an opportunity to use my delay pedal. That was it. I don't know.
It sounded really good. I liked it a lot. So where did that song come from?
Sadness. No, it's like a rough mental health song. I think like you've been aware of us like being partnered with different mental health advocacy groups basically throughout my entire musical career, because that's like a big deal for me on a personal level, and also like for all of my friends and bandmates pretty much.
Yeah, a lot
You're
of...
new to this, but even since you joined Guilt, our like shirt sponsors. Oh, I do have to plug our shirt sponsors. No, they're Convicted Printing. Like also is
it's
like
a really cool company.
A group that has certain charitable orientation towards. It's not a mental health thing, but it's a big deal to like work with artists and groups that are like actually doing something besides trying to make money by creating stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so like
and putting things into good causes.
Yeah. So the song is a light satirical take, I guess, on things people say when you have problems. They're like, why didn't you just try yoga? Which like legitimately some people, nothing against yoga, but like, I mean, that's like a running joke, I think, like on the internet. It's just like, why don't you just go outside? It's nice outside.
It's just a mentality that is something that can go away in the long run. And most people don't understand, like people with mental health, like there are days that are good and like people can function like normally, but it is something that kind of has like peaks, and it kind of like, it's not something that's easily controlled by just one thing. Like there are things that can help, but in general, it's just a lot more than just one solution.
Right.
Yeah. So I think for me, like the first half of the song is from like a sympathetic point of view, where it's like when you're trying to talk to somebody and they immediately are like, oh, you have clinical depression. I know what that's like because I've been sad before.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, being depressed and having like a clinical issue is different. And it's not to say that like, you don't want people to have clinical issues. So you don't want to be like, oh, you've only ever just been sad. Well, like you don't, like I'm sort of elite for having this like horrible thing that happens to me.
Yeah.
But it is different. And I think it's
it's hard to talk to people, and sometimes they'll start making it about their thing, where it's like, well, this is how, and it's like, did you want to know how I'm doing, or did you want to
like,
feel
compare.
good about asking me and then
Yeah.
compare?
Well, they want to go into how can I fix this mode? How can I make
Yeah.
this better
Yeah.
mode?
Which is,
and
that's my downfall every time, because I'm
Yeah.
a fixer.
Right.
And it's like they go in with a good mentality that they're really trying their best to help, but it's not a matter of fixing the problem. It's a matter of like addressing that those
Right.
like feelings are valid, and like whether or not you can really do anything about them. Like it's still important to be able to talk about them.
Right. I feel like it's a lack of understanding. Like you said, it comes from
Yeah.
a good place, but people don't understand always. So they say something thinking that they're helping, and they just don't realize.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's like the first half, and then the second half of it is sort of like I said, satirical, but it's a darker. It's just why didn't you just do this thing? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's really rough, and it's an interesting thing to side with the people who aren't having the problem. But it's rough when somebody comes to you and you do want to fix it, and so of course the first thing you're going to say is like, well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And I understand when you're trying to talk to somebody, it's frustrating that like, yeah, I have thought about just trying to be happier. Like I've thought about eating differently, or I've thought about sleeping differently, but like it doesn't work, and it's frustrating that I have to explain this to every single person who asks me.
Yeah. It's also kind of hard to talk about in that sense because people don't want to feel like they're a burden for having those kind of feelings. And it's just like a frustrating cycle of having to explain something that doesn't really like have one clear solution.
Yeah. And this microphone just always falling down. I think the last part of it that's kind of important to me is about like regressing to negative behaviors. And like I've been sober my entire life, so that's like a thing for me, and it's taken me a long time to understand addiction because it's easy for me. It's just like, yeah, it's easy to not fall into that hole when you don't ever give yourself the opportunity. But a lot of people, it's not a choice that they could have made, or it's not an easy choice to make, or it's like once you start something, it's not great to judge somebody for where that leads them, unfortunately. And addiction outside of like substance abuse can also be like self-harm or any of that stuff, and it's one of those things where it's like, well, why do you keep doing that when it doesn't like make it better? And people don't understand that it gets comfortable to at least do things that are familiar. And that's really dangerous. It's hard when you've been in it so long that it's just, well, this is what I know how to do.
And that's kind of all you really have. And it's kind of hard to break out of that because like people want to be comfortable, and it's hard to really fall out of that, honestly.
It's a coping mechanism in one way or another.
And like obviously, there's healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms, and I have diagnosed, I'm not just like self-diagnosing here, I have obsessive compulsive personality disorder. So like, although I don't have those behaviors, I'm like a workaholic. That's my thing. I'm always making stuff, and I get like legitimately anxious, not like I feel kind of weird, like I will start panicking if I feel like I've spent too much time goofing off. And I've used that to my benefit to make stuff, but I also have it's ruined a lot of relationships for me interpersonally, like friendships or like romantic, where it's hard for me to spend time with people and feel comfortable with it. And I have to recognize that behavior is the same way. So in order for me to think about getting better, because I was like, I love the benefits of having a bunch of work done. But in order to think about getting better, I have to think about the overworking in the same way I would think about telling my friends not to self-harm. Because that's, of course, like, don't do that. It's so obvious. But I think because it's a more internal, emotional thing versus a very physical problem you're facing, you're like, it's different. It's emotions. But you can do a lot of stuff that will, like, hold yourself back, no matter if it's physical or emotional. So, holdout songs are usually like, I'm lonely, or like whatever, I'm kind of a narcissistic jerk, but this one's really heavy.
But it's also very important because like talking about that is the first step to like really getting it out there that it is a problem for a lot of us, and people don't feel comfortable talking about it because of that stigma that it's just
Yeah.
why talk about it? Like,
Here's the hot take, and we have only like 2 minutes to.
Okay.
All right.
very.
Yeah, because I want it to be a debate forum.
All right.
This is a thing I've gone back and forth with multiple people about aggressive or sad music in general, but like there's a certain catharsis to listening to something that helps you get the emotion that you have out.
Yeah.
But there is also, and I think everyone's parents are like, it's that listening to sad music just makes you sad. And you're like, shut up, I'm gonna this they get me.
Yeah.
But really, if you do mire yourself in visual and sonic imagery that keeps you in that headspace, there's a danger to it, and I'm contributing to it by
True.
making art. And I think I never know where to draw that line. I don't want to make anybody feel worse. I want them to feel like, oh yeah, there's other people like that. But I don't want them to just spend all of their time on it and not explore getting out of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
For some people, in my opinion, I feel like they do use that as like an outlet to help them cope with that, because it
Yeah, I
does give
certainly do.
them
For sure.
a sense
Yeah.
of like feeling that they're not alone with what they're going through. And for other people, it could be something that's potentially not helpful to
Yeah.
them. But it's all about like finding what works and what doesn't work for you.
But you don't want to find that out the wrong way. You don't want to
Yeah.
find that out in a bad way. You don't want to find out too late that your friend was like, just surrounding themselves with negativity, and then,
Yeah.
something happens. I don't know.
You gotta, I would say, from the artist standpoint, you have to be able to create what you want to create. And if you are mindful enough that that is a fear of yours, then it's doing what you're doing now, talking about it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you cannot control how someone views and how someone uses your art.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say create
Yeah.
what you feel, and then being mindful so you can talk about, this is what it was. I don't want it to just end like this for the listener. It's
Right.
just that extra step that you're putting into it.
And
Yeah.
I do that. I try to talk a lot of shows. I think you're familiar. You're like, can we please
Yeah.
play a song? Please stop talking. But like, it's
So it's important to like address what songs are about.
Yeah,
because
I
it
try
is-
to do that.
Yeah.
Especially because we have sort of like darker, heavier material, but I do worry about just recorded music. Like, if people don't get to see a live show and they just listen to it, I don't have an opportunity to say this is satirical or this is purposely self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important. That's art that has spoken to me. When I was in high school, I listened to the radio, and nothing against pop music, but like hey girl, you're cute, let's dance, does not resonate with me. But I listened to like Fall Out Boy and Say Anything, like that early emo that was just like, I feel kind of bad and I blame myself a little bit. I was like, oh my god, me too.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I was like,
Right.
I want to participate in that, but I don't want it to be in a negative way. And I feel like you're right, it does just have to be a discussion. But
It's hard. I mean, because I grew up being older. I grew up in the 90s where a lot of the heavy music was super angry and super
Yeah.
aggressive. It was
Yeah.
more so than even like the emo and stuff.
yeah, you're dealing with like aggression and violence, whereas I'm more like
Emotion,
internalized
yeah.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, and same thing of that. Well, this makes people act out. This makes people get anxious.
Right.
So, I think again, it's just being mindful of it, and but at the end of the day, you're creating something that is cathartic for you, and hopefully they'll listen to it and connect like you did with what you listened to back in the day,
Yeah.
without it being that trigger.
Yeah.
It's a hard. Do you not want to create what's real because you don't want someone to react the wrong way? You got it.
Yeah. I don't. That's a rough one. I don't know. Again, I don't know what we can plug, but there was that old documentary about the anarchist cookbook guy on Netflix, and that was basically the crux of that entire video. Was like, do you regret making something that led to violence?
Yeah.
And I don't really think they ever gave they didn't give the answer the interviewer wanted, which was yes or no.
Right.
They talked around it, but
Well, they may not. I mean, that's hard.
Yeah.
yeah. But
It's a great song.
Thank you. Thanks for
Yes.
interviewing me for the day. I'm excited for actual episode 1.
Right.
We have paperback coming from
From
North Carolina, I
North
think.
Carolina, yeah.
And like, we're running it because you're out of town.
Yes.
Yeah.
For episode 1, my co-host is out of town. But
Dang.
thanks, Nicole, for
Well,
subbing.
You planned this.
I will. Be
Yeah,
here
I planned it
again
around their
tomorrow.
tour schedule.
Yeah, for sure.
But remember, kids, like, subscribe, and comment.
Please. Keeps my
To
family
Punk
going.
House.
All right.
All right, bye, kids.